greatest thing about EVE is the community within it. I spent 4 hours last night at the Pandemic Legion Fanfest dinner. So even though I killed a few of their ships, I was still welcome to enjoy a meal with them. But my name is Lazarus Tellraven. My real name is Brian Murph. I am a lead FC for the CFC, which a few you're probably familiar with. And the PL Spy. I'm the guy, when you see the 1,000 goons or the 1,000 people forming up to go fight a fight, I'm the guy on top telling everyone what to do. It is the most stressful job in EVE. What we're going to go into first, hopefully it plays, it's a YouTube link, but it is by far, in my opinion, the best example of the magnitude of what unfolded on January 27th, the Battle of B-R5. So we'll see if it'll play. And maybe. Maybe. I'm glad that wasn't porn. By far the best. Now we have to figure out how to get the presentation back. All right. So that was BR5 in a nutshell, that video there. What most people don't know what happened before BR5. You all know about the 22 hours that we sat there and played EVE Online. So the rest of this presentation, each slide is going to be delayed about 10 minutes for time dilation. So, Head GP. Head GP was about 5 days before BR5. What happened in Head GP is the CFC and Russ jumped in about 500 dreadnoughts and lost probably 350 of them. So it was we didn't really want them anyways. But Head GP was monumental in the fact that it proved some of the theories I had going into BR5, as well as just definitely showed how a fight like that would play out once escalated. The night before BR5, I was having a conversation with Mr. V, who is the Euro Time Zone FC for the CFC. And he was a little perturbed at me because I wasn't playing as much as I should have been. Oh, this is not going to be good. So it's just logs, which I tried to kind of redact some of the bad words, but I might have missed some. So basically, this is us. There is a station timer coming out on Wednesday. We wanted to plan this trap. We've been trying to plan this trap to get their supers and Titans killed because we knew we had the advantage. We knew we had the numbers. It was all about a point where we had the FCs online and being able to get everyone to show up to it. But then BR happened the next day. So it was all for naught. So the morning of BR5. Pre-Sovereignty drop, we knew that Pandemic Legion and N3 were taking their entire Slowcat fleet, and I think they took 45 supercarriers up north to defend one of their assets in MTO. It was a station on its final timer, so they had to go and defend it or else they would lose it. So that started, I believe, at 1 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, which I'm not sure the conversion right there, but what you have is they have been awake for 5-6 hours as BR started to unfold. So you have these pilots who are Australian, who are just coming around to their bedtime, or they're European, and they're just waking up. And you just have a cluster of people that are tired and bound to make mistakes. BR5 was not planned. Some at the very beginning thought it was some sort of spy thing, which we are known to do. It was a SOV build gone unpaid. It was a box unchecked, and people were really upset, I believe, at Manny about that, but it happens. The Russians, as soon as they found about it, they had scheduled an op. I was awake at this time, I believe, at 4 a.m., my U.S. Eastern, and I told them to wait, don't go into system, don't let them know that we're going to do anything. So they just left it. At 1200, after 2 hours of sleep, I woke up and was like, all right, so what's happening? Where's PL at? Are they still in the north in MTO? I start moving a scout. I lost 2 cheetahs trying to get the BR5 that day. So it was not easy. And once we got there, we were able to see that they had 8 territorial claim units. There's going to be a lot of acronyms here, so if you have a question, let me know. If I start speaking too fast, let me know. So they all had about 4 hours left at that point, so I told the Russians we had to move the op forward. So we started forming 4 separate fleets at 1300 an hour before. There was 3 Dominic's fleets, and there was a single dreadnought fleet full of about 40 dreadnoughts from the Russians and Razor, which actually this was not according to my plan, but the Russians decided to go ahead and jump in and flip the station, which I said was a waste of time because they just dropped supers. I was wrong. So, the Russian and Razor Dreads and their 2 Dominic's fleets took the station and the 6 TCUs while the CFC went ahead and handled the other 2. Which in hindsight, had we been thinking about it, we probably should have rape caged each of the posses there, which would nullify the BR fight, but it would have kept them trapped in their posses with their supers. So at this point, the PL fleet had stood down for, I think, 30, 45 minutes, and that's when Manny actually had to get back on and start reforming his fleet and go the 5, 6 Sinos back all the way down, as well as having all of their super capitals that are stuck in B-R5 log in and jump out so that they can come in together. It's a very complicated process. Anyone who has not flown a super or had the joy of dealing with the coordination of jumping them around will know it's definitely a mind-boggling task and very stressful when it comes to people bouncing, people not have enough fuel, people not enough cap. And then there's the trolls who say stuff anyways. So as they log in and move down, we start pinging everyone we could reach. We ended up with similar numbers. I think we actually had 20 super caps more than them, and I think 10 Titans at the initial jump in. The text message. Most people have seen this by now, but this is me at home calling in sick from work, and this is Mr. V at work. As things unfold, I'm the only FC around that's currently working with all the fleets at once, coordinating everything, and I'm calling for help. So, and the most infamous text, or I guess is that right there at the bottom, is eventually there isn't more time. They've warped on field, and we have to make the call. This is what they initially jumped in. This is the Pandemic Legion and N3 Supercap fleet at 1300 in the morning, or 1400 in the morning. It's still scary. So once they get on station, we had drag bubbles all the way around station because I was planning on them to head for the undock to try and reflip the station. That way they can continue to play undocking games with the rest of their capitals. Instead, they warped to the TCU below station. That way they could get through the bubbles, which put me in a perfect place to sign a win and cut off their undocking reinforcements. So, as you saw in the video, the fleet on the bottom, which was the N3 PL fleet, which without time dilation would have been the correct play, they started taking dreads off the field immediately with their Doomsdays. But as we saw in Head GP, guns don't cycle properly in tie-dye, so the only thing that's really going to do your damage is going to be your Doomsdays. So they're broadcasting that they killed 30 dreads with their Doomsdays. We broadcasted that we just killed a motherfucking Titan. So our primary, Pix carrier, which if you're in PL, you know he's probably bragged a few times about his X-type fit carrier. We dropped 3 Ragnarok Doomsdays on 1 carrier. He was boosting their entire fleet, and then after that, due to spies, we killed every single bonus bus that they put in fleet command. They did not do that to us. my Erebus survived the entire fight, boosting the entire initial fleet. So, this is 3 minutes before the hot drop. NC Dot broadcast that we are scared. And this is their command chat on Jabber, their joint command chat between N3 and PL of their reaction. They're completely accurate. If you have access to that channel, you can go back in logs and actually find these. After this, Vince Drake, and the line after PGL there, it was, no, we didn't just lose a Titan. And then after that, they go, wait, yes, we did. So, sorry. This is the CFC broadcast. This goes on for about 20 more hours. Yeah. So, and I like to point out the second broadcast from the bottom. If you're wondering how the Matani.com gets its hits, there's your answer. If you want to know what's going on, just click his links. Turning points. Sword Dragon's avatar. According to everyone, what was reported to them that Sword Dragon was offline, which therefore his hardeners will be offline. And time dilation, that doesn't work. Hardeners are still online, but he did not actually drop fleet. He lost his bonuses halfway through, so he dropped to 20% armor and then was instantly boosted back to 45. But in the span of 2 hours and 45 minutes it took to kill him, we had dropped 5 more Titans. We killed 5 more of their Titans, and we've further established our lead. So, in Head GP, we made the mistake of bringing all of our subcapitals in to deal with their Sino-jammers. That's a lot of damn drones. You're looking at 1,000 Dominixes, all dropping drones, as well as 400 boot carriers, and then super carriers. So that's a lot of stress on the node. So instead of bringing our subcaps to this fight, we had the ones already on field abandon their drones, so there was no more firing from them. And then we sent every single subcap we could muster to the staging systems so they could not reinforce. We had bubble camps on each of their staging systems, and including dropping dreads on the carriers they undocked. So a lot of people don't understand what it takes in a fight like this. You're looking at probably 6 to 7 FCs. You're looking at 250 people per fleet, and typically there's one person sitting on top that's coordinating the fleets. At the beginning of this, I was coordinating 5 fleets. At the end, we were up to probably 8 or 9. We had a fleet of dictors. We had a fleet for each staging system. We had someone having to coordinate having spare dreads to drop on their undocks when they tried to escape. There's so many moving parts that people don't understand when it comes to leading these type of fights that by the end of the day, you are completely wiped out. So, halfway through the fight, the Rusts decided they were going to bring in more Titans, which at this point we thought we were at the end of our rope. We are having trouble breaking, I believe, Travis Muskrat's Erebus. It was down to 20% structure and it just wouldn't die. So, if you can read that, or if you can't. They signed in 13 Titans right at that moment, and later brought in 13 more. Sino chains, reshipping, refueling. If you talk to any PL guy in here, you'll know that if they died, they were potted back to Amamaki, and Phalanx gave them a new ship. They signed it right back in. On the other side, if you died, we get sent to QPO, which is in Declan. It is 6 sinos away. We reshipped, we brought back everyone immediately. We had supers coming from QPO, we had supers coming from Fountain. We had supers from every single part of EVE coming to this fight. So, this is the most important part of 0-0 fighting. Whoever can respond and reinforce faster is going to win. At the end of these fights, my Titans were down to 5,000 isotopes each. So, typically a Titan will carry 500, 600,000 topes. So that's 50,000 per Doomsday. This is the list. The blue is going to be N3PL, and the red CFC. But you can kind of see the list. During the fight, we actually thought we had lost twice this amount. We had Ragnaroks dropping off the field every 10 to 15 minutes at one point because our bonuses weren't sorted out. But apparently, the Russian ones, they were so far off the fight, they were warping out before they died. They were taking deep damage and then warping. So, in the end, we only lost, 13 Titans? 14 Titans? Not including the Razor that was moving, because, well, it's Razor. Sorry. I love you. Well, yeah. So, there's a distinct order of the blue Titans that died. You'll notice they are all Erebus's. As I explained earlier, Erebus is given armor bonus. It is a large armor bonus. In fact, if you look at some of the videos on B-R5, you'll see a Titans go from half armor down to 20%. And then you'll see them bounce all the way back up to 50% because that bonus is being swapped around in the fleet. Most of these Titans that died at the beginning did not have proper bonuses because people are still loading in the system. So it takes far less damage to kill them. And the Ragnarok is already squishy. So once they reloaded their Doomsdays, which took about 2 hours in this fight, so it's a weapon that goes off every 10 minutes. It's now 2 hours to cycle it. So we ended up with enough Titans where we were able to cycle 4 to 5 Doomsdays per target and push them over the edge of their reps. Reps don't cycle in tie-dye, but they still take effect eventually. So you'll see a lot of bouncing if you watch some of the videos. The only thing that's going to break through that in these fights are the Doomsdays. That's all that matters. So you see, once they swapped to our Titans, they went straight for our Ragnaroks. Explosive is, in this type of fight, they're going to be the biggest damage type, mainly because all these Erebuses, all these avatars, they're doing EM Thermal. EM Thermal is going to be the easiest damage type to stack. That way you don't take as much damage. So we get rid of the Thermal. Get rid of the bonuses. And then, as you saw with Sword's avatar, they tank a lot. At one point, Maktep, the leader of the Russians, jumped in with 15 Titans, and he dumped Doomsdays on a target that we had not called. I don't have the logs, but I'll find them if you want them. But if lots of all caps saying, "What the fuck are you doing?" So this is about 8 p.m. my time. I had been awake since 7 a.m. my time, with 2 hours of sleep the previous night, and this is basically kind of the aftermath. We've pushed everything over the edge, and this is just kind of what happens at the end. Yes, I was. I was having them approach me and dump them into my cargo because I had no way to Doomsday anymore. I gotta have kill bales. But yeah, so at the end of this chat log, I get a little bit smug. So, a CFC member, Elena, made this infograph. It's actually pretty informative, including the, real-world translation, which most of us don't really care about. 775 Doomsdays fired. That is a lot of Doomsdays. 38.75 million isotopes, which would be worth a fortune ever since Fozzie posted his change. It's what, 24% in the last 2 years of Doomsdays, I believe. And it's just general what died that day, and it does a pretty good job covering it. And you can find this on Google or just anything. It's if you want a closer look at it, but it's the real number is the 7,600 unique players that were in that fight that day. I mean, you're looking at 3 to 4 different systems, all different fights, different FCs, different players, and all of that is what it took for this to happen. That is why it only happens on January 27th, once a year. So if you guys want to do it again, we'll see you in a few months. Yeah. So, in the game of Titans, everyone pretty much dies. So, one of the big things that people were looking at immediately after the fight is how does this impact the EVE Online universe? How does things change when it comes to that war we're currently fighting? Well, a few weeks after that happened, with the CFC and Russians, we completely steamrolled 3 regions. If you look at on a map today, they got them back. They paid a little bit for it, but they got it back. So, nothing in EVE is permanent. Everyone says CFC is permanent, but we'll see eventually. Throughout EVE, there's always been the big juggernaut. You had Band of Brothers, which died. The NC, which died, and now you have the CFC. So we have a few interesting years ahead of us. Oh, eventually. So, like I said, the whole huge complexity of this is being able to understand what an FC goes through. And if you were to talk to Manfred Sidious, Elise Randolph Shadu, Mr. V, any of the FCs that do the large-scale fleet stuff, there's really nothing comparable in EVE about it. Like, there's probably a number of FCs in here. You know a little bit what I'm talking about. Like, in a show of hands, who here FCs? Yeah, see, these are the people, these are the content creators that you fly with every day. These are the people that you should be buying shots. Just not 13 Soko Apoth. So, but basically, I'm going to open up now. If you have any questions, general questions, FCing, anything that you want to ask me, I'm sure there's lots of qualified people here that can help answer things if I don't have the answer for you. Just if you want to raise your hand, I can bring you a mic, which I have no clue if it'll work. Yep. I guess it doesn't work. Maybe.
Which PL Corp are you going to?
Well, I have had my alt in ESW for a while. However, I am friends with everyone.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So, but I don't have a decision yet. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'm Tarex Thork. I wanted to ask you about Sword Dragon. Do you think that actually really mattered? I mean, was it much of a turning point? Do you think the Russians might not have jumped in those extra Titans if?
Well, at that point, they were already coming in. I think it was a big factor, but it wasn't as big.
Yeah, but you guys had such a massive advantage already. I mean,
yeah,
like
I think at the end we had 40 Titans. Like in the midpoint, we had a 40 extra Titan lead, but it's not as big as it seems. But it's a big factor in the fact that so many Doomsdays per cycle were wasted on him just to push him over that rep barrier. So not only it was the Doomsdays that it took to kill him, but the extra ones that were wasted because they had to punch through the reps. So.
Okay.
Anyone else? Nope. Pass it up. Man, those lights are bright.
Do you have like a job next to this, or do you need to be unemployed?
No, I do have a job. I had to call in sick that day to be able to make it to that fight. I woke up about 7 a.m. U.S. Eastern, which is when I usually wake up for work. I phoned in and said, all right, I can't really make it in. I got something. I'm sick.
Cheers. Cheers.
Yes. I actually work for my family. I do IT and I work on your multifunction printers. I do a lot of network interfacing with those. So we own a family business down in Savannah, Georgia. So I had to call my father and tell him that I was sick, which later he found out about it, but it's all good. It's okay.
All right, mate. Nano Pandemic Legion. I'd just like to say for the fact that when Sort Dragon was in half armor and Graf Telkin was actually raging, we all just said, and this was a unanimous decision, fuck it, it's Sort Dragon, we're just going to kill him. And you can get our comms from that, and that is actually official, and it did happen. We knew we were going to lose at that point, but we just wanted to kill him.
Everyone jumped in, and they had the impression that we really, really, really wanted to kill Sir Mole, which if you look at our chat logs, which I can still pull up if anyone would like to see them, but you see shoot Sir Mole about 10 times throughout the hours. We're like, it's bait, no.
Yeah. Just say for the record that it did feel good when he died.
Yeah, it did. I'm not gonna lie. It was torn between shoot Sir Mole and shoot Salah. So
Op success.
Yep, there's one down here.
Would you have taken the engagement if the SOV drop happened during the EU or US time zone with possibly less Russians being there?
It depends. There's lots of factors that go into thinking about this. We actually had a small number advantage going into B-R5, but I also knew that they had been awake longer, and that we would have the Russian time zone logging in as they were getting work at home from work. So, say again? Yeah, it wasn't 300. It was 160. Because I think once I started pinging, I formed a second dread fleet, which had 80 dreads, and the Russians brought in 60. Okay. Yeah. It was a lot more than I could count. People kept asking for links on what was on field, and it was pretty hard to distinguish who was who. Yeah, at the end, you probably saw, I think, 800 dreads on the CFC side against 500 Archons, which you can't really make an argument either way just because of time dilation of how much the cycles helped. Had it been no time dilation, the amount of dreads on the field would have volleyed a Titan every cycle. That's kind of what we're playing at, but we didn't expect the time dilation to affect them as much as it did. But to answer, I guess, further answer your question, would we have taken that fight in Euro? We would have. But we took it in Rust because we did have the better advantage. Questions? Right behind you.
Okay. Zerikar Z with Art of War. We're a training group.
Okay.
We're looking at FCs at really at the highest level here. What is the progression to get in your role?
I get that asked a lot. How do I become an FC? How do I move up the ranks? And the answer that I give them is you lose fleets.
Oh, we're good at that. Yeah.
If you want to learn how to fight, you lose fleets. If you want to learn what you did wrong, you lose fleets. One of the biggest things that I do after a fight, win or lose, is you go back and what went wrong. In this case, I could have rape caged every single boss in that system, and they wouldn't have had access to any of their supers. There would have been no fight, but we would have won. So, what's more important to you, the fight or the win, is what you have to decide whenever you're going into this situation. So, you win some, you lose some. I've whelped quite a few fleets. There's videos on YouTube of me whelping fleets. So I mean, it happens. Everyone loses fleets. If you yell at someone for losing a fleet, you should probably start FCing yourself. However, if you're a goon FC in here, I've probably yelled at you a few times for losing a fleet.
I hate asking another question. Wouldn't rape caging the bosses not prevent the fight, but delay it to possibly a time zone which more favors the N3 PL forces?
It would have ended the fight completely. Had we decided to bubble every single pass, which for those who don't know, rape caging means you take two large bubbles, you put them over the entire pass, that way any super capitals logged off that pass cannot jump out. They cannot warp, they can't jump, they're stuck. So had we just gone with that route, which we didn't even think of that day, we would have dumped every single subcapital pilot we had into that system, and they would have never been able to clear those bubbles until we left, which would have taken us 8 hours sitting there and no fight. So I'm pretty glad we decided not to do that. So it really comes to a fact of win or fight, and sometimes you can get both. You can have your cake and eat it too. Down here.
Hi, was becoming an FC something you thought of doing when you started playing the game?
Absolutely not.
And
I would not wish this on anyone.
And before playing EVE, have you ever had a role that involves that sort of leadership, or was this the first time you were?
I have been a video game nerd for a long time. I have played at many tiers of competitive gaming, led a few clans, including a few professional FPSs. I played Warrock, CS, etc., all the normal ones. And I've always been the guy that kind of steps up and takes charge. And my FCing and EVE kind of took root whenever there was no one else around to do it. A lot of FCs you talk to, they FC because there's no one else that'll do it. Like I said, fights like this are not fun for me. No, not really. I've been so drunk this entire fight, this entire Fanfest. So it's not thankful. We're the popular kids in EVE because we get people fights. But it is like a second job when it comes to these fights. If you're in a war, you got to grind structures. Well, most people have to grind structures. I kind of disappear after the fighting stops. Yeah, exactly. So it is a job. However, if you enjoy fights, you enjoy the endearing fans you get, then FC. People look up to you. People want to learn from you. And I tell anyone that ever asks, if you want to become an FC, you want to learn more, let me know. EVE is very rock, paper, scissors at a certain point that once you learn what each ship can do and how typical enemies fit at them, you can counter them, and it's all about what counters what. For instance, right now in EVE, shield Ishtars are popular. They drop your drones, they run away. Once you swap to more of an EM type fleet, Beam Zealots, Apox, you tear them to shreds. It's what people don't understand is you have to counter. And whoever's defending typically has the advantage. Any more questions? So after you pass it up. Yeah, so him right here, and then we're going to pass it up.
Yeah, it's not a question per se. It's just what you said about people who want to learn to FC. And from our experience, I can speak for myself, old school, Manny and Headliner, is the fact that it's not just the FC, and it's the fact that you have a good 5 or 6 characters online at any one time. You're scouting the enemy fleets. You're making sure what their setup is, as you say yourself, rock, paper, scissors. You're trying to counter it yourself.
Right.
So it's multiple things. It's like it's not just you taking out a fleet and saying, right, you shoot this primary, that secondary, that tertiary. It's the fact that you're getting the intel. You're relying on your scouts as well as yourself. You're relying on sinos. There's just so many things. But as you say, ask any FC.
Right.
And they'll no doubt help you. Our guys do. I can speak that from experience.
Yeah, it's that as well as being able to keep people's attention. I have a tendency to yell and talk very, very fast if you've ever been on one of my fleets. And I repeat things multiple times. A lot of people have their signature things when they're FCing, and the thing you want to do is kind of find your niche. What do you enjoy doing, and how can you get people to follow you? And up top.
Yeah, would you like to see NC, or Bob, as you call them now these days, would you like to see them leave the game or be beaten so badly you didn't have an enemy anymore?
Absolutely not. The way EVE is there's been, like I said earlier, there's been Bob, there's been the Northern Coalition. They were all killed, but they all were still in the game. They come back, they're in a different alliance, and things keep on running. The odd thing you have right now is you have the group of Russians, and then you have the bipolar universe. You have CFC, and then you have N3. So what you're going to run into now is what's going to get them to start fighting again. Between Goons and PL, some people know that we have an agreement. You don't shit in our woods, we don't shit in yours. So basically right now, at Neve, you have a Cold War status. You have CSAs all over space building nothing but Titans after this fight. So the next fight like this is going to involve double the numbers. At least, yes. So it's definitely going to be something interesting to see, but what the weird driving force is, it's always after an accident. Asakai, accident. B-R5, accident. All these major fights are happening after accidents. So you have to wait until everyone's in the same region of space and wait for someone to fuck up. I do talk to him every day on Skype. Any questions? All right. I think we're good. Well, like I said, if I'm around, if you have a question, just let me know. Thank you guys.
Yeah.